That lovely introduction. Just a bit unnecessary, but again, I think we all get the idea. First of all, first and foremost, I would like to congratulate all partners, sponsors, speakers, panelists, everybody who's joined this conference and made it a success. I truly believe that something like this, a complete symposium, very artistically and beautifully curated, is something that is the need of the hour. And starting from there, I think we've had amazing talks and amazing panels since morning that have discussed about why we need to achieve healthcare equality and healthcare equity. From there, I think we now need to come out with the second version of it. How do we plan to? What exactly are the current trends in the technology, in the current trends in the medical apparatuses, medical devices, and how the technology can basically shape and give structure to healthcare revolution in India. So starting with, I'm going to be covering the role of disruptive medical innovations and the complete aspect and kind of impact that they bring about in this particular session. When I say technology and when I say disruptive medtech innovations, I mean two completely different things. We live in a paradox. We live where technology is currently so advanced that in the urban settings, urban healthcare settings, you can find robots doing and performing surgeries. While just some kilometers away, there would be a rural village, a remote setting, where somebody is still unable to get primary health access. So that is the paradox that we live in. That is why I want to differentiate technology from medtech innovations. These two are completely two different things. Medical innovations basically are going to be revolutionizing technology by breaking the barriers. What are these barriers? These barriers could be operability. These barriers could be interoperability. These barriers basically could just determine the ease of use that the current technology has not achieved. And that is why it's very important that we separate the two things out. So if we have an innovation that is, of course, driven by vision, I want to explain how it can create a very large-scale impact. So starting with a brief introduction, I'm the co-founder and chief executive officer of Quintessential Private Limited. We basically are a medtech technology producer. We are a manufacturer of medical devices that currently work out of Andhra Pradesh medtech zone. We're in the top 67 manufacturing partners of India's first internationally recognized medtech park. We're also in the top 50 healthcare startups of Niti Aayog and Atal Innovation Mission. And basically, this startup was started by just two third-year engineers back in the year 2020. They also call us the COVID batch because we graduated when the lockdown was imposed. So we started when we were imposed in a lockdown and we were bound to stay home, and we realized that what exactly are the chasms of healthcare and how do we aim to solve it? The chasms that we found in healthcare were very obvious. Please mind me when I say that the solutions, the kind of problem that we identified and the kind of solution we wanted to build against it was something that could have been created by a 6-year-old. The reason I say so is because during COVID, there were 4 things that were missing: electronic medical records, digital patient management, health screening, and health monitoring. These are 4 basic buzzwords I think everybody is now aware of, and these were the things that were missing. We were just in our final year of engineering, and we both are computer science engineers, me and my co-founder, Mr. Lokan Jain. We thought that, this is not something that is like, it's not something very complex to achieve. This is not something that should take so much time to come onto ground. And that is when we realized that we might have a good opportunity in terms of making something that some other person is still creating, maybe might have an idea for, but let's just take the leverage and start building this startup. So we started with a small problem that we identified, and then we wanted to bring a solution for. We started with a mobile application back in the year 2020. We did not even register our startup then. This mobile application would have been compatible with the current medical apparatuses that you have, like for a blood pressure monitor, SpO2 monitor. This software application would have communicated with all of these different apparatuses through the help of IoT, Internet of Things. Nothing in layman's language. It basically is how different Bluetooth-enabled or internet-connected devices can speak to each other, and all of the information can be stored consolidated in a consolidated manner. So that was what the idea was, that we can just enable electronic medical records, we can manage we can manage patients in a digital way, and we can store their data, we can try to manipulate it, we can try to evaluate it, and with that we can get a sense of where exactly COVID is more predominant and which areas it is not. That is how the startup came into existence. That idea was a failure. We barely got anywhere with that, and I think anybody who owns a startup, they know that the first idea that you get is the most rubbish idea, and you just need to throw it out of the park. Then we basically went to an incubator who put us into direction, and I'm really glad for the kind of mistakes that we've done. We tried, since day one, there was one thing that was sure. There were 3 A's that we wanted to revolutionize: affordability, accessibility, and availability of healthcare. Every startup who's working in this domain, they would know what these 3 words mean, because it is literally in your pitch. It's in your vision, it's in your mission statements, it's everywhere. And these were the 3 words that were guiding us as to how to bring this innovation to life. We then thought that, COVID is something that can be monitored with the help of pulse rate and SpO2, just for the primary sake of screening. We thought, let's give birth to a device that with just one finger placement can let you know if a person might have spiked levels of SpO2 or deteriorating levels of SpO2 and spiked levels of pulse rate. And through there, we can maybe give a person an early identification that, yes, from the last previously stored scan that we have of them, the health data, there has been a substantial deviation from your normal body vitals. And maybe from there, we can give birth to an early prognosis if somebody could be COVID positive or not. Again, that was never successful. That idea went down the drain because in COVID, everybody was just busy managing the existing COVID patients. Nobody wanted to screen. And let's not kid ourselves. We live in India. People do not go to a hospital until they are severely sick. Until they are severely sick, until they are on the deathbed, they will never consider going to a hospital. Preventive, precautionary, and such kind of a prognostic health awareness is absent in India when it comes to that. And maybe the complete landscape is not just a fault of users or subjects like us. Maybe it's also the fault because there are lack of technologies that support preventive and precautionary health measures. So that basically brings us back to what exactly is the technology now, and how, in accordance to this particular symposium and this particular topic, how we're able to now finally come to a solution that is creating a large-scale impact. So giving a brief background about the founders, we both went, after the complete alterations that we had in the complete idea, and then we realized that, okay, now we want to reach somewhere, we want to actually build a solution that, again, is in lines with those 3 A's that we aim to bring about. We then settled on the same device with the same ease of use, that yes, with just one finger placement, you get the body vital values. But these body vital values were not just the 2 ones, pulse rate and SpO2. We wanted to expand it to more. We expanded to 5 body vitals with just one finger placement. And those body vitals include heart rate variability, blood pressure, body temperature, IBI, and even 700 plus further features that we can just extract from your blood. So I think it was the constant failure in the face that just kept us right on the track, that exactly this is something that we need to create in order to create that kind of an impact. If I speak a bit about the problems that basically drove us to finally attaining and finally achieving the kind of product that we have in hand, we speak about healthcare in accessibility, unaffordability, and unavailability. Again, back to the 3 A's that we're trying to solve. So when you understand the unavailability sector, and when we kind of dive a bit deeper into it, unavailability actually means the absence of precautionary and preventive health measures. As we've already covered it, just try to Google what exact devices you might just find if you just try to Google, if I want to have a precautionary measure for diabetes or any X kind of a disease. There would not be much kind of certified and validated medical apparatus that will show up. Because that is the harsh reality. Nobody wants to create something that is going to keep you away from drugs, keep you away from treatment. Actually, that industry goes basically when we go to that kind of a part, that industry does not want to focus on precautionary and preventive, while that is the imperative for the next world. When we speak of inaccessibility, it again brings me back to the paradox. Technology that is there doing wonders in the clinical settings of urban areas, that is the same technology that is so bulky, so expensive, that it is incapable of touching the same rural grounds that are 30 kilometers away. So that is where inaccessibility comes into picture. Why are there not technologies being built enough that can work equally efficiently in both landscapes, be it rural, urban, across all age groups, across all genders, and why isn't that kind of a consistency being achieved? Third, unaffordability. This is a trivia fact. There was a recent study that was conducted about what exactly is the most concerned factor in the Indian women. The topmost emerged as their concern that the healthcare is so unaffordable. That was a recent study conducted on women, and that is what their answer was. So I don't have to dive deeper into the fact that how unaffordability plays a very vital role in terms of serving that chasm that still serves as a barrier while healthcare does not reach us everybody. Now let's come to the solution, what finally we had built after all of those trials. So we have Abhay Parimiti over here. The reason it's called Abhay Parimiti is because it's derived from Sanskrit. It means a fearless perimeter. Whatever perimeter you enter, you can be fearless of the infection. And also to represent that, yes, this is a 100% indigenous medical product. Abhay Parimiti starts with primary health training. As I already explained, it just in 30-second one-finger placement, it can give you 5 body vital values, including respiratory rate, heart rate variability, pulse rate, blood oxygen levels, blood pressure, and a lot more other things, but these 5 remain the vital ones that we showcase. Now, through the device, what we enable is that in a very portable manner, you can extract all of these 5 things, and in a much more ease of use, and induce a much more ease of use. That brings me back to one lady that was working in Mumbai slums, and she asked a question this morning that what happens, why is the technology currently not being served in a manner that somebody who's unaware of technology, somebody who's a layman can also operate it, and that is the biggest barrier. And that is something that startups today can potentially solve. Technology is supposed to make your work easy. Technology should be understood by somebody who's a layman to somebody who understands supercomputers. Technology should always make your work easy, and that is something that this device does. This device, as you see the 2 photos over there, the device is being used by 2 women that we found in 2 certain health camps. I will come to their stories later, but coming back, this is exactly the kind of ease of use that we can have with this particular device. Just carry it in a portable box, be it rural setting, urban setting, it'll work everywhere. The device is also 24/7 connected to the internet. Now, if you ask me the question that how does internet works in the rural settings or remote settings where it's not even there, I would like to shed light on the kind of technologies, the ecosystem that the government has built. There is a technology called NB-IoT. The full form is narrowband IoT. It is specialized to work in places where only 2G network is found. So if somebody is today creating IoT-enabled devices that can monitor and enable electronic medical records from any corner of the world, they would have the right resources. So it is not a very hi-fi rocket science that today we have enabled healthcare in rural places. It was supposed to be there. The ecosystem has already enabled a solution like this to come into place. Second, then we kind of play with the data. The device, the panel that you see over there, you put your finger on it for 30 seconds. It records your complete health body vital data, and it uses optical sensors to do so. It's the same sensor that you find in SpO2 monitors, and the kind of difference that we have is that we have spent over 1.5 to 2 years working on some novel algorithms that can be placed on this sensor. And then this sensor can record such kind of uniform information. Now, this data that we take, imagine that I, as Sanya, approach this device. This device will already understand that Sanya has now come because I would use some kind of unique identification method, either through RFID or through a QR code or through some kind of mobile application that is already compatible with the device, and I'll place my finger. So first the device identifies that, okay, Sanya has come for a scan, and then it will store my health scan against my user ID. Now, when this kind of a thing happens, now the impact that it creates, when it's already placed in a rural place, imagine somebody who came for a health scan. And now this information is directly being fired to the server from any health center any rural telemedicine center, any village, any household, wherever it may be in India, you can connect to a doctor virtually because this device supports that. This device supports the technology, supports the bandwidth, and uses the existing resources in a way that you can send the information to a doctor, even sitting in the United States. And he, in real time, will take your health data and then give you a consultation and diagnosis, which exactly is the kind of chasm that I'm talking about. The chasm that it is such a small problem, which when solved can create such a huge impact. Third brings me to the affordability. Now, the device that you see in front of you, if I would just like to make this session a bit more interactive, can anybody just take a guess for how much is this device being sold into the market today? Maybe even like, let's raise hands. How many of you think that this is more than 1 lakh rupees? Nobody. How many of you think that it's more than 2 lakh rupees? Less than 1 lakh rupees? Less than 50K? Less than 20K? It's a 15,000 rupee product. This product is capable of screening 1,500 subjects in a day, giving them unique identification numbers, allotting them health IDs, getting them connected to a doctor sitting anywhere in the world, and taking their data in real time and sending it. Now, this was such a small problem we solved, but we were unaware of the impact. The kind of impact that this technology creates is that villages, rural settings, people in these places, they do not have access to hospitals like you and I do. We feel unwell, we can literally just go up to Google and search our symptoms. Google is our first doctor. And then we decide which doctor to go to. Now, these people that I speak about that live in rural and remote settings, it takes them 3 hours to 4 hours to go to finally a hospital, get a consultation, come back. And that is why healthcare is 5 times more expensive for them, because the rural and remote settings of India are not designed in a manner to get easy access to healthcare. That is how this device completely changes the landscape. This is how we introduce affordability. These are just the basic aspects of the device and how it is revolutionizing. Now I'll come back to the 2 photos that you can see. The first picture is of Radha. Radha is a white coat nurse who was conducting a health camp, again in a remote village. This remote village had basically, the moment you enter into this remote village, you will find no signal on your phone. It will barely work. You cannot make phone calls. You cannot send texts. And she had to conduct a health camp over there with over 5,000 subjects. Now, the complete health camp was driven by this one device because that was when we were in pilot stage. We thought, you know what, just take this one device, and how many people do you have to screen? She said 500 to 600 subjects in a day on a good day. We said, just take it. It's only going to take 30 seconds per user, and you can go about your day. She started the scan, and she successfully had screened 5,000 plus subjects in just a span of 10 days with this one device. She did not even have to move one pen or one paper and store their information manually. The complete information after the finishing of health camp was mailed to her, and she could see the kind of impact. Now, when we understand that how one feature in a device can actually produce an impact, I kind of speak about the aspect that healthcare resources are far away from going and entering into the rural side of the nation, but they can definitely be extended. This is not replacing the healthcare infrastructure. This is an extension to it. This is the healthcare infrastructure. We are just giving it more hands to operate it out of multiple places. And that is what happened for Radha. The second photo over here is of Kamla. It's just there because I really love her smile. It's also there because this was the first time that she had screened herself, and this was the first time she had ever known her blood pressure values. She came to this health camp. She thought that, okay, if something would be wrong with her body, she would be connected to a doctor. But then instead, she was given a 15-minute knowledge with one of by our executives who told her that these are what blood pressure values are. Your range is in 120 by 80. You're actually an ideal candidate for us. And she bursted into laughter, and then she was the most happiest person to exit out of that health camp. And that photo is there just as a testament that, yes, we started with a vision that we want to provide healthcare accessibility at the fingertips of everybody. And yes, one patient, one subject, one user at a time, we're trying to achieve it. Now let's get a bit more technical. Let's understand why and how such innovations can be given birth, how these innovations can be leveraged, and how these innovations can play a very vital role in changing the landscape of not just the Indian healthcare, but the global healthcare. AI and ML play a very vital role in the second aspect of this device. So first, what we are doing is that we are introducing primary healthcare. But then what happens when we've already collected your data? We take your data through PPG. Photoplethysmogram is a kind of technology that uses optical sensor to reflect light and transmit light. Again, in layman words, the panel that you see over there, it has a red colored sensor. It throws two kinds of lights, infrared and red. And with that, the moment it throws the light and then it absorbs it back, it kind of is able to see the volumetric changes in your blood. So what is important in here to identify is that through optical sensors, we are able to take that blood sample non-invasively. I didn't have to prick into your blood to get 3,000 samples a second, but I just did it with the help of optical sensors. And those kind of samples then help us achieve something that has not been achieved so far. So recently, this innovation was in the top 5 innovations from India to be sent in World Health Organization's Geneva conference, that was Eureka, as one of the high impact solutions. It's already in the top 50 healthcare innovations of Niti Aayog Atal Innovation Mission, not because of the kind of problem that it is solving, because I personally believe that what we're solving is a very small problem. We're just giving a usability of a device that can concrete and consolidate 5 body vitals into one and then produce that result digitally. But when you see the impact that it makes this impact for 70% of the population that lives in India today. We all are just 30% of the total population, and we get 70% of healthcare resources just as at our disposal. They only have access to 27% of the total healthcare resources, and that small change that a startup like us made today has created into such a big impact that they counted it as in the top 5 innovations from India. Now, this is what exactly is the future of this device, and this is what exactly is the future of PPG. The reason I want to stress more about PPG and the technology that we use is because we don't want to take this technology and hold it with ourselves. Shortly, we're going to be releasing all kinds of algorithms that we have made and make them open source, so that people can use this technology, they can use the core of it, and can make more devices. This technology can be used in a wearable, in a ring, in an earphone, in a mobile phone, everywhere. Now, I'm not capable of making all these products. So how about you make it for us? How about other people take the patents that we have filed, understand the technology, take our algorithms, and then create something even better out of it? We are currently just basically impacting a very small sector, and I believe that 1.3 billion population is really big. Even if I hold the complete technology to myself, it'll just take me 5 lives or maybe more, to impact everybody and give them the taste of this particular technology that can just revolutionize the way they see healthcare. And that is why we require more and more people acting on such technologies. So the kind of future that PPG has created is that we have already deployed hypertension and stress. These alerts can be these alerts can be derived from the one health scan that this device does with the help of PPG that has already been deployed. Second is triage bifurcation. Now, what happens when you go into a hospital? Imagine 2 scenarios. One scenario that we're in a hospital. This hospital has an OPD with over 10,000 patients walking across a month. They would take 10 minutes, 15 minutes for each patient. A paramedic would come, take 5 different devices, take their blood pressure, take their respiratory rate, and that so on and so forth. They will just end up spending so much time, and they'll actually not be able to screen the exact amount of people that came. So we increase their efficiency. We give them this device that just takes 30 seconds and generates a triage for them. That this is a patient who is at a very high stage, or in this particular disease, they are actually at a very severe stage, and they need medical attention right away, right now. And somebody could just come for a normal consultation. This device could automatically generate a report for them as a print, and they can just take it home with them. Just like those little machines that we used to find in a railway station, you put in a penny, and they would give you your complete weight. So something like that, this device can do for people. Second scenario, imagine this device in a clinic. How many times have we gone to a clinic where we have found doctors actually overwhelmed with patients? There have been lines of patients who were trying to get in, who were trying to get a diagnosis and a consultation, but they couldn't because the doctor was understaffed. Not even one paramedic, one pharmacist, and one doctor were enough for these kind of patients, and he only used to sit there for 2 hours or 3 hours. That is exactly when this technology comes into picture and not just increases the efficiency of that little clinic, but also helps the complete subject stay connected to this doctor even after their consultation, because they know next time they're going to come, the device has already stored their information. So now when you're going for a consultation next time, the electronic medical records are so smart that they'll actually tell you that from the last time, we see an increase in your health score or a decrease in your health score. And that is the power of AI and ML that can basically just revolutionize that experience for you. Coming on to, there has been a breakthrough that we have been able to achieve. There are 2 prototypes that we are trying to make. That is, one is non-invasive hemoglobin detection, and the second is non-invasive BGL. The same can be done with the help of PPG. So this technology, I'll again explain it out to you. It's not rocket science. Of course, blood sugar levels are something that need to be, it needs to be calculated with the help of your blood sample, but not necessarily. There have been proven, there have been results, and results at the end of the studies that they show that yes, you can actually be able to derive sugar levels and hemoglobin levels without pricking the blood and actually taking that sample. You can also do it non-invasively with certain accuracy that can be achieved more than 90% with regular usage. How basically we are able to do it is that when photoplethysmogram monitors your blood sample non-invasively, it looks for blood markers. I'll go back to this slide where we mentioned that we take 700 plus features for disease detection. These 700 plus features are nothing but your own personalized blood markers. These blood markers, these health markers are something that differentiate you from some another person. And these blood markers, when monitored at a regular interval, can give you a complete detailed report in terms of your hemoglobin levels, diabetes levels, even alert you for various diseases such as coronary artery disease, respiratory diseases, COPD, asthma. And these research papers have always been there. They've been there for 10 years, 20 years, but the only thing that lacks is that how are we able to manage the sensitivity? So the kind of future trends that come in PPG is that we are able to predict hemoglobin without taking the blood sample at an accuracy of 90% right now in just prototype stage. We believe that when we are able to go into clinical trials, we are going to be increasing the accuracy, and that is how we will revolutionize how women in India are perceived. How healthcare for them is massively impacted because anemia is one of the biggest concerns for women. How we are able to revolutionize it, how we are able to give them a right away alert if their hemoglobin levels are low or high. Non-invasive sugar, we kind of see that we will still require 8 to 12 months to just identify which kind of roadmap to go ahead with. Non-invasive BGL is something so deep and so in-depth, and so it requires such kind of precision to be launched into the market that it is just going to take us 12 months alone to understand which kind of study to implement and which kind of roadmap to follow to finally achieve this. So we are looking at maybe 2 to 3 years when we're potentially going to be launching it. But I just take immense pride and immense pleasure in terms of telling you and informing you that, yes, this is possible. This is what the future of healthcare is. And now imagine, circling back, this kind of an impact being made for people who don't even have access to primary healthcare. They just put their finger on a device and they are already getting the updates that, okay, my hemoglobin levels aren't right. My BGL is spiked. They would already know all kinds of things, and this is something that we induce for them. Now, let's understand how such innovations can not just come from a startup like ours, because we did spend close to 4 years always falling on our heads, but then again getting back up. We don't want other companies to do so. We just want to expand this network, how you can actually leverage the kind of technology that we're building, and also make use of it, build extensions to it, and enter the same industry. So a stronger Femtech industry with the help of PPG can easily be created if we look at more impact-driven research. We could have just entered into the industry by saying that, yes, we wanted to make a multi-parameter monitor that is 100 times more cost-effective than the current existing multi-parameter monitors, but we would have had a very smaller impact. We actually were constantly driven by those 3 A's that I mentioned. And those 3 A's have defined how this particular product has shaped. Second, uniform implementation. I have explained in this particular session that how resources are available to not just reach the urban landscape, but the rural landscape equally efficiently. We are working with Nokia in terms of making this complete product 5G compatible. And with the help of 5G compatibility, we can use this in ICUs, we can use this in operation theaters, we can use this in critical care, and this device can make IoT-based decisions. While we're also working with NASCOM, where we identify how, in a program like Jan Care, where we are looking at 1,000 to 2,000 villages, can be benefited from this kind of a technology. Because I'll tell you, when you work on technologies, all of these resources are out there. You need to ensure that something that you're building has a uniform implementation across all landscapes. And third, yes, we can potentially reduce the gender gap through technology. This technology is in requirement and is needed more by a woman than a man. When we speak of women, their bodies go through undeniable changes. Their bodies are basically prone to changes that, like in comparison to a man, are not that much. And they are in need of health training and health monitoring more often and more so. And that is where this innovation can basically come at their disposal and help them stay alerted of their health at a particular stage. If they're deteriorating, if they're recovering, and how exactly is their complete cycle being tracked with the help of this kind of a technology. So that is something that we're able to introduce when we work on a technology that is, yes, impact-driven, has a uniform implementation. Generally, it will just lead towards a smaller gender gap, and it will actually serve a bigger purpose. So I think that brings me to the end of the session. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, any questions? Yeah, can we have the mic, please?
Hi, congratulations. I think what you have outlined and described seems almost like the holy grail of medical devices. It reminds me of the tricorder in the Star Trek series, right? Which can...
Yeah.
So just, I think, very basic question around validation. Where have you validated, your algorithms? Because I mean, it's a very noble cause that you're opening the data and your algorithms up as an open source for other people to build on.
Yeah.
But I think then the most important question is not only for others, but for your core product. Where have you tested this? Both clinically and technically, yeah.
Yes. So basically, the testing comes in two forms. First, the things that we have already deployed. So for example, we have deployed a multi-parameter system that can have multiple parameters, including then further extendable to ECG, given right away. So we've gotten the device. There are two kinds of compliances that a device needs to follow. One is in terms of NABL, where the device is searched for pre-compliances, whether or not it's fit to be a medical apparatus. So we have gotten our NABL studies concluded. Second is in terms of performance testing. Now, performance testing can happen through these agencies that are there, which basically, like such as TUV. And these are some very recognizable and recognized agencies that can give you a certification that, yes, you currently lie at a performance level or at an accuracy at par with a gold standard multi-parameter monitor. So even we have concluded that. Third, as an additional layer, what we did is that we have concluded various in-house studies. So our in-house studies have showed that our accuracy is in compliance with Class 2 FDA medical grade equipment, and we have an ISO standard performance testing report for it. We are also planning to file our FDA 501(k) notification and then maybe apply for FDA the moment we go in the United States and the landscape.
Sorry, just feedback here. I think there's a difference between safety and efficacy, right? So a lot of, I think what you're describing is around safety, right?
No.
So that
NABL is safety, and then performance testing is in terms of accuracy.
Yeah, but FDA is mostly around safety.
Yeah, like that is the third one.
Yeah, so I think just a quick feedback, right? I mean, first of all, congratulations. Nothing taking away from what you've done. I think a lot of the emphasis has to be on the clinical side and on the sensitivity, right?
Yes.
Because this is literally what you've put on one slide is the holy grail. I mean, it's not a small thing that you are trying to achieve.
Yes.
And it'll be very proud moment for the country if something out of India can actually go on and achieve this.
Absolutely.
So I think just in your the presentation, I think there has to be a lot more emphasis on the clinical part
Yes.
as well, and
Yes.
you're bringing more clinical partners.
Yeah.
In-house studies, while great for your product roadmap, is just the starting point. I think for a
Absolutely.
lot of credibility, you need to bring in partners. Even if you start from India, like you don't need to collaborate with international partners.
Exactly,
Even if
exactly.
you collaborate with Indian academic institutions and
Yes,
get them
yes.
on board.
We do have a tie-up with AIMS. We have tie-up with tie-ups with all kinds of sophisticated agencies that give away this testing. The reason we don't have clinical trials right now is because we haven't launched any of the diseases. Right now, we just have 5 body vital parameters. So for a multi-parameter monitor, we have both the testings in place. That is first the NABL, that is a safety testing, that rewards this device to be a medical equipment and be fit for it. But when I say class 2 FDA compliant, there are certain classes of medical devices. So class 2 is the device category that we fall in. We are already compliant for the gold standard. We are already in compliance to it. And then we have also achieved the performance testing from these recognized agencies. So that has already been done in place. But when it comes to that other slide that you're referring, no, we haven't launched any of those models, the hemoglobin, the BGL models. The moment we launch them, we would require a 6-month to 8-month extensive clinical trial study, and then getting it verified and certified, and then hit the market. So it's just like a procedure like I would have followed if I would have launched a vaccine. So I pretty much know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
I'm keen to know what the impact has been on just those 5 vitals that you've captured. While it's really interesting what has been done, but I think the true story lies in what impact has been created with these groups of people which actually subjected themselves to these tests, and what came to them as a result of this sort of testing, isn't it? That's really the story of the impact.
Absolutely. So basically, imagine that, first of all, when I speak of blood pressure, there are not much apparatus present in India that can take blood pressure through a finger. And for that, yes.
No, so I understand that. My question really is, having gathered all of this data from, let's say, the rural population, how has it impacted people who have actually given that data? So how many doctors actually interpreted the data, put out a finding? Was there a treatment protocol? That's what I'm keen to know.
Exactly. So then I can maybe explain to you where exactly this device was placed. As an example, first it was placed in a health center. That was a rural telemedicine center where doctors were not there. So basically it was just a small, tiny room outside clinical setting. So the first impact that this device made is that it was not necessary for this medical apparatus to be in a clinical setting to record that kind of a data. So first, that was that. Second, when this data came, it basically helped doctors who were sitting miles away, kilometers away, to help them give a consultation. And then this consultation was followed up by similar partners that we have. Like, for example, Swas, who's coming right after me, they are already having health centers who perform these kind of tasks. And then we're already collaborated with health centers that are close to 50,000 health centers across the nation that impart this kind of a usability for rural people and the remote settings of India. So that is how the impact has been created, because imagine they have a very manual kind of a method of taking all of these 5 body vitals. And what happens is that there is a higher chance of human error. If there is one paramedic who is sitting in the rural villages and in that health center, and he's taking constantly he's relying on 5 different medical apparatus and then constantly taking the values of the person and then storing it, maybe sending it to the doctor via text, via email, it induces human error, it induces inaccuracy. So that is how this device has made an impact, that yes, you are able to take uniform, consistent data, send it to a doctor's miles away, and then in real time, he can also see the graph of the person's health data subjected to.
Are doctors across geographical locations willing to access the data for the same patient and interpret it? The reason I'm asking this question is, for instance, if I do a diagnostic test in a particular lab or hospital, and I go to another doctor for a second opinion, this is in a metro, and people like us, the doctor invariably would discount that first test, want me to redo the test in his facility or her facility. That's the state that we are in large metro cities. I'm just curious to know if, in the rural setting, the doctors, are they willing to look at just the common pool of data that has been gathered and provide interpretations or treatment protocols?
Now, first of all, just a bit of correction in terms of having this data as a test report. It's not a test report. It's mandatory for a consultation. So even if you...
Even so.
So when you go to a doctor, even if you've taken one, like if you've come to me for a consultation and then you'll again go for a different doctor, again, they will insist that through their paramedic, you get the 5 body vitals done. because that is mandatory before every single test, and every doctor will rely on their particular methods of taking those kind of body vitals and then giving you a diagnosis or a consultation on that. That is something that is already there. Now, for example, in your particular case, let's imagine that you have gone to 2 doctors and both of them are using the same device. Now, when you come and scan on this device, the device will already fetch your previous information for you. And then again, maybe that scan can happen, and then the device, through AI and ML, can also help the doctor in identifying if there has been any deviation, better or worse, in terms of your health score, so that a doctor also has a heads up. So that is the kind of efficiency that we increase, and that is like how it happens. Thanks.
Hey, hi. Just last question. Yeah.
Hi.
So I have a couple of questions regarding how you store the data, and as a patient, how can we access those data?
So basically, every device comes with a compatible software portal. Now, for every user, we allot them a user ID, or your data would generally be linked to your mobile number or your unique identification number, just like we're working with government on Aadhaar number. So probably in future, we would be storing this digital health data against your Aadhaar number that is supposed to be inclined with National Digital Health Mission. And when it comes to before that, we would already have your data in correspondence to your mobile number or your email ID. So that is how you can fetch it. For example, if this is given to a particular clinic or particular health center, they already have user credentials that are compatible with our software portal. They can enter their user ID, password, and the data would be visible over there. Coming to the first part of the question, how we store it, we send the complete information to our servers through an encrypted manner. We also store the data. We basically are more in terms of HIPAA compliance, we kind of treat the data as a treasure, and we do not try to store the data until and unless we have the permission from the user. So whenever my company basically remains a third party when it comes to viewing that data. So the data that we are able to view is all anonymous. But when it comes to a person who's already heading the fever center or fever clinic, they would be given a unique ID for each scan. And then they, at their end, can correlate this unique ID to the particular patient's name or patient's number. So that is how the complete information is being stored.
Can patients share those records or whatever data is?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's shared in a PDF form with you so that you can just share it with all doctors that you want and get a more better consultation.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Sanya. And just a quick heads up to all our audience, if you'll have... Okay, we can take this as the last question. Sorry if you're running a bit late on time. So yeah, we can take that as the last question.
Actually, again, firstly, I commend what you're doing because I've lived in the rural section where our ancestral home is, and I've lived in the city as well.
Yeah.
So I like that you all are proactive as compared to reactive medication that's happening right now, especially in the rural setting.
Exactly.
Because where I've noticed that even if you're looking at these 5 parameters, for anybody to go to just check that normally, where out of 110 people would be sick, but the 100 have to go, and it's a huge expense to go to a doctor to get this check. So you're actually negating that and only sending the 10 that reduces the stress on the doctor, right? Now my question is, what is the hurdles or the challenge to adaptability that you all are finding from the doctor's side of it, where, like she had mentioned, the question on doctors wanting these tests, but if the results and the algorithm works, right? Are doctors able to actually take this information, because we're predominantly not open to sharing information, whereas it's my information, right? So I should be able to take the information from one doctor to go to another doctor to get a second option because it's my health, right? But that's not the same here where you go to a hospital for a check. They're not very open to giving you that information, which is why you have to do a second test. So what's your hurdle or challenge to the adaptability, which then makes this more open scale?
So I'm going to be answering your question more in terms of giving you the facts in terms of the revenue we have increased for these clinics and doctors. Initially, there was a lot of resistance. They practically said that no, blood pressure cannot be taken through a finger until and unless we had those kind of clinical reports, performance testing reports to be presented to them. They saw it and they were like, all right, let's maybe give it a try. It was only when their acceptance came into the picture, when they saw that, okay, with the help of this particular device, I don't even need a paramedic anymore. I can put my clinic on an automation, which is actually the inevitable future in India. That you walk into a clinic, you imagine that doctor is now generating more revenue from you because he's given you a health card that is compatible with only his device and his health clinic. What's your name again?
Darren.
Darren.
Yeah.
So Darren, they've given you a health card, and let's say there is this particular super specialty clinic where you go, you take your health card with you. That machine has already stored your information. Next time you go, you can again fetch it. And the doctor can actually monitor if you came for if he has diagnosed you with a particular ailment or a disease the last time, and the next time you come, he's able to tell you whether you have recovered from it very well and what exactly is the scale of your recovery. So that is the kind of impact it brings. More importantly, when we talk about the kind of revenue that we have generated for these clinics, so a doctor that was now just like before was just able to screen 50 patients in an hour is now scanning 150 patients in an hour. Pharmacies, they anyway give medicines to people. Like you go to a pharmacy and you tell them, I have this particular problem. They'll be like, take this medicine. We are giving it to you. Now imagine those pharmacies in rural sectors can place this device and actually let them connect to a doctor, and if it's not required, like the device also generates a diagnosis initially, whether the person is generally healthy or not. And if not, what exactly are the reasons in terms of body vital parameters that we have, again, just marked. So the device is basically an aid to the doctor, and once they realized it, they were much more accepting towards it. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Thank you, thanks.